Dr. John
Kwenye siasa makundi lazima yawe. Siasa ni mambo ya makundi.
Pombe.
Ukitaka kuona kuna tatizo, basi ni watu wote wakubaliane kuhusu mambo yote kwa wakati wote.
Magufuli.
It is July 2015.
Majina matano.
The heat in Dodoma is heavy.
Yaliyopendekezwa na kamati kuu.
Inside the CCM headquarters, a political war is brewing.
Hakuwa na makundi na hakutumia pesa, hakuonga, hakupata kura zile kwa sababu ya kutoa pesa.
Nitumeni nami nitawatumikia.
Sitawaangusha. Narudia tena, sitawaangusha.
After understanding where Magufuli came from and who he is as a person, we are now entering into one of the most controversial elections in Tanzania, both in CCM party and the general election, which Tanzanians for the first time saw the opposition formed a coalition, which was UKAWA, powerful enough to shake the ruling party which ruled Tanzania by then for 50 years.
The ruling party has reached a breaking point.
Mheshimiwa Membe na Mheshimiwa Lowassa. Hawa ndio ma heavyweight sasa hivi kwenye kinyang'anyiro. Wanaweza kuwa msingi wa kukivuruga Chama cha Mapinduzi.
Kuna mahala watu fulani wachache wamekaa wakatengeneza orodha yao. Mzee Abed Aman Karume alisema nchi hii ni yetu wote, usifike mahali wakafikiria nchi hii ni yao.
At the center of this storm is Edward Lowassa.
Kila mtu ambaye alikuwa anaufikiria urais mwaka 2015 angalau alikuwa na target yake ambayo ni Edward. Baada ya Kikwete, Edward atakuwa rais.
This year, nominations focused shifted from what it used to be. It was more about stopping someone from becoming the president of Tanzania than nominating one. But what was the reason? Okay, I'll tell you later in the story. To understand why Dodoma is burning, we have to understand who Lowassa really was. Lowassa was more than just a politician. He was a titan and experienced. He has held senior government positions since President Mwinyi's regime.
Alikuwa ni kiongozi ambaye alikuwa na sifa za uongozi. Ana imani kwamba anaweza kutumikia taifa. Ana maono na ni mvumilivu.
From real estate to livestock, his wealth was so vast it once alarmed the father of the nation, Julius Nyerere, who famously blocked Lowassa's 1995 presidential bid, asking how a public servant had become so rich so fast.
Tuliingia kwenye kinyang'anyiro cha kuteuliwa kugombea urais. Edward hakuvuka kamati kuu, na ile ilimuumiza sana. Na ilimuumiza zaidi alipoambiwa aliyetia msumari ni mwalimu.
Lowassa fought on the front lines during the Kagera War as lieutenant. He graduated from University of Dar es Salaam and the University of Bath. So academically, he was smart. But in 2008, his rise ended. He became Tanzania's first prime minister to resign in disgrace after the Richmond emergency power scandal.
Mheshimiwa Spika, nimetafakari sana kwa niaba ya chama changu, kwa niaba ya serikali yangu, nimeamua kumwandikia rais barua ya kumwomba niachie ngazi.
Now, it is crucial to understand what really happened in 2015. And before moving forward, we have to understand how CCM actually works, especially in how they get their presidential candidate.
The CCM Constitution sets a process of nominating a presidential candidate. The Central Committee does the first vetting and propose 5 names. These names are then submitted to the National Executive Committee, NEC, which has the constitutional mandate to vote and select 3 final candidates. These 3 candidates are then forwarded to the National Congress, the supreme organ, for final vote to elect one that will represent the party in the general election.
Now let's get back to the 2015 nomination process. It wasn't just a nomination process like the other in 2005 or 1995. This time it was a political explosion. 38 candidates showed up and said, we are able to lead.
Yet in the public mind, only one name mattered: Edward Lowassa. He was seen as inevitable. As delegates gathered in Dodoma, all eyes were on him. Team Lowassa thought his popularity made the nomination certain, but the party was fractured. Two camps faced off: Team Lowassa and Team Anti-Lowassa. To understand how CCM fractured into two rival camps, you have to look at two conflicting schools of thoughts. One side, the anti-Lowassa faction, saw him as a liability. He resigned in 2008 and he had fifthly rich image. They feared he would drag the party down. To them, he was a disaster waiting to happen. On the other side, Team Lowassa saw him as the ultimate solution. To his supporters, he was a man of unrivaled experience and charisma. They didn't see scandals, they saw betrayal. They believed that after the setbacks of 1995, 2008, the party finally owed him his moment.
So as the midnight neared, there was intense debate inside the Central Committee meeting to get the 5 candidates. During this night, they successfully narrowed the names from 38 candidates to 5 candidates who are now going to the neck.
With CCM's dominance, the stakes were huge, shaping the party and maybe the country. This showdown set the scene for what followed. Same night, the Team Lowassa realized their exclusion, and Lowassa's team prepared to boycott the NEC meeting. They protested what they saw as unfair process. The episode echoed Lowassa's 1995 sidelining after Nyerere's intervention. For those in politics would simply remember this moment. Then came the verdict. When Napenawe, publicity secretary, revealed the top 5, tension swept CCM headquarters.
Nataka nithibitishe kwamba majina matano yaliyopendekezwa na kamati kuu kwenda kwenye halmashauri kuu ya taifa ni ndugu Asha Rose Migiro, ndugu Amina Salomo Ali, ndugu January Makamba, ndugu Bernard Camillus Membe na ndugu John Pombe Magufuli.
So before moving forward, there are criteria on how CCM Central Committee selected the final 5. The party scores candidates on strict pillars: age, Zanzibar status, experience, national appeal, gender balance, and electability. You have to meet these criteria, maybe 1 or 2 or 3, in order to be selected in the top 5. So John Pombe Magufuli was the wild card here. He wasn't a party insider, but he ticked 3 boxes perfectly: age, a no-nonsense track record that appealed to public, and most importantly, electability. In a year when the opposition was screaming corruption, CCM needed a candidate who looked like a clean, hard-working outsider, which is why Magufuli was in the top 5, along with other political influences. Soon, the famous chant echoed through the NEC meeting. President Jakaya Kikwete, party chairperson, faced a tense situation. At that moment, everyone was unsure how to continue the meeting, but they knew they had to move forward. So in the meeting, there were 5 agenda items. First, open the meeting. Second, pass the CCM election manifesto. Third, confirm Zanzibar's CCM candidate, Ali Mohammed Shein, with yes or no vote, because he was the only one. And fourth, vote for the top 3 nominations. And fifth, close the meeting. The chairman presented each one. Most NEC members supported Team Lowassa, and by then, NEC were over 360 in numbers, and they wanted to move to agenda item 4 fast and get Lowassa's name back into the top 5. When the agenda item 3 ended, attention turned to the key 4th item. Energy in the room shifted. After Shein's validation, Chairman Kikwete called a tea break. The break was intended to ease tension before the next agenda. Calm before a storm. Literally, you can say that. Team Lowassa was caught off guard because they were not prepared for this, because the all high table stood and left the meeting room. The Chama cha Mapinduzi CCM has a long-standing tradition of valuing internal debate, a key characteristic that shapes its democratic purposes, processes, and candidate selection. This tradition fosters a culture in which diverse viewpoints are openly expressed and discussed.
Natuwasihi ndugu zangu kuzingatia na kuheshimu masharti na kanuni za chama chetu za uteuzi wa wagombea na masharti ya maadili. Naomba myazingatie ili mrahisishe kazi ya uteuzi. Tujadili tu historia ya mtu na uwezo wake kwa nafasi anayoiona. Isiwe tunapoteza muda mwingi kujadili makando kando.
Before voting, the top 5 had to touch base to discuss what can they do to ease the situation. Some of them considered letting Lowassa compete, but party elders, following tradition and how the situation was and the intention, that was never an option. When the doors shut, the contest began. Team Lowassa launched a 4-hour defense. The elders listened quietly. They followed the old political rule: let your opponent expose themselves. After the debate, the elders replied one by one. They rejected Lowassa's candidacy. They did not question his popularity. Instead, they cited his weakness, especially corruption allegations during the tenure of Prime Minister and the Richmond contract. They also noted times when Lowassa's interests conflicted with the parties, and this included the 1995 situation, as Msuya noted, and his different values. The 6 elders were Judge Warioba, Cleopa Msuya, who was very articulate, John Malichela, Aman Abeid Karume, and Ali Hassan Mwinyi, and the man, Benjamin William Mkapa. Benjamin William Mkapa intervention was decisive, authoritative, measured, and final. It was like a father in the room. He shifted the discussion from popularity to suitability, introducing what became as the suitability doctrine, the moral axis of the story. The doctrine aligns with political elite theory, in which decisions rest with small influential group that prioritizes the collective future of our popular opinion. It also reflects party institutionalism, emphasizing the traditional dynamics and traditions guiding crucial choices. With that, the voting commenced. Everyone in that room would simply remember what Mkapa said after he finished what he was saying, and that was Lete Maboksi. In this belief, Lowassa's dream of becoming president of Tanzania ended there, and his team had no options left. The voting process continued. By putting the party's survival above one person's fame, the elders made a way for an underdog, a man known for his record, hard work, and electability. In the end, he faced 2 women, Dr. Asha Rose Migiro and Ambassador Amina Salum Ali. The party wanted to avoid more drama, which is why Bernard Membe and January Makamba, 2 popular figures, were not among the final 3. They had played their cards carefully. Ambassador Amina Salum Ali seemed the most promising of the 3 because of her experience, but her speech at the National Congress hurt her chances when she said, "Lowassa is my brother." Everyone who was there would simply remember this, and that alone was enough to end her run. Then the voting began, and John Pombe Magufuli, who was unpopular, not even a pro-CCM, and often overlooked, surprisingly won the nomination. He would now represent the party in what became the most dramatic election in history of Tanzania.
Mheshimiwa John Pombe Magufuli, kura 2000.
Though unexpected, his victory sparked questions about the true dynamics of influence and power within Tanzanian politics.
Hakuwa na makundi na hakutumia pesa. Hakuonga. Hakupata kura zile kwa sababu ya kutoa pesa. Ni mtu anayeheshima. Yeye hakuwa na mtandao aliojenga nchi nzima. Yeye akasema mtandao wangu wana CCM. Sina sababu ya kuwa na mtandao mwingine. Ni jambo muhimu sana.
This change may indicate a broader trend in Tanzanian politics, where political influence is increasingly determined by internal party consensus rather than public appeal. In the wake of the Dodoma betrayal, the unthinkable happened. Edward Lowassa did not go quietly into retirement. Instead, he executed the most controversial move in Tanzania's political history. He crossed the floor. Lowassa and his massive following migrated from the ruling CCM to UKAWA, the opposition coalition. The move was a political earthquake, but it was also a paradox. For 7 years, the opposition had branded Lowassa as the face of corruption in Tanzania. Now, almost overnight, he was their presidential candidate. This marriage of convenience came at a heavy price, though. It shattered the opposition's moral standing. Inside CHADEMA, the shockwaves were immediate. Dr. Wilbur Slaa, the party's longtime firebrand, refused to accept the deal.
Na CHADEMA ambayo tumeijenga kwa damu. Watu wamekuwa walemavu katika nchi hii kwa ajili ya CHADEMA. Watanzania ni vilema kwa ajili ya CHADEMA. Watanzania wametumia rasilimali zao kuijenga CHADEMA. Leo wanashindwa, watu kule wanakimbilia huku.
Having run a successful campaign against Kikwete in 2010, Slaa believed 2015 was his turn to lead. Disgusted by the arrival of the man he had once campaigned against, Slaa quit the party he helped build.
Kikubwa katika harakati ni credibility. Jina la chama ulichokijenga kwa muda mrefu kisichafuliwe na kitu chochote, na lazima uilinde hiyo credibility kwa nguvu zozote zile.
But the CHADEMA chairman, Freeman Mbowe, saw a different path. He chose Lowassa's affluence and influence over ideological purity. Mbowe bet that Lowassa's mtandao and deep pockets were the only way to finally break CCM's 50 years grip on power. The gamble partially paid off. Lowassa's arrival brought a historic surge in numbers. For the first time, the opposition won record-breaking number of seats in parliament and took control of councils in all 5 major cities.
Sasa mimi ambaye najua kiu ya Watanzania, nitakuwa mwenda wazimu kama eti tutaacha kumpokea Edward Lowassa, kiongozi mwenye nafasi kubwa katika taifa hili, kiongozi ambaye ana wafuasi wengi katika nchi, kiongozi ambaye robo 3 ya wabunge wa Chama cha Mapinduzi walikuwa na muunga mkono na ilikuwa inaonekana wazi.
Hakuna mwanasiasa mgombea urais wa upinzani wa kabla yake au wa baada yake aliyepata kura nyingi za rais au aliyepata wabunge wengi kuliko mzee Lowassa. Na hiyo inakuambia jinsi gani ambavyo alikuwa na ushawishi mkubwa.
The last key decision for CCM was to choose a running mate. And this was the job of now the president candidate, who was John Pombe Magufuli. And he presented 2 names.
Niliokuwa nimewachagua wawe wagombea wenza alikuwa ni Mwinyi na Mama Samia. Huo ndio kweli. Lakini muelewe ndugu zangu, ukishindanishwa na mama utashindwa tu. Na ndiyo maana nikamwambia Mwinyi, Hussein, tulia, ngoja niende na mama, kwa sababu mama huyu ni mama safi na ni mchapakazi safi.
This choice would later lead to Tanzania having its first female president. It was a landmark moment in Tanzanian history. For the first time, a woman was nominated for the vice presidency on a major ticket. This pivotal shift set the stage for what would follow. By selecting a female running mate, the nomination challenged the traditional gender norms, while strategically enhancing the party's appeal to progressive voters, becoming a turning point for both gender, progress, and electoral success. Before 2015, Samia was not widely considered for this role. However, she had a quiet supporter. During the turbulent 2015 Bunge la Katiba, a young member, Paul Makonda, saw her lead meetings with come and bring people together. And this is what he said.
Na furaha yote mlionayo inatokana na namna ambavyo mama huyu amefanya kazi. Na mheshimiwa mwenyekiti, tukubali tu. Na hili nalisema mbele ya mheshimiwa waziri mkuu Pinda, tukubali tu. Ikifika huko mbele ya safari katika ule usawa wa wanawake 50 kwa 50, basi mama huyu ikimpendeza Mungu tashukuru akiwa makamu wetu wa kwanza wa rais. Asante sana mheshimiwa mwenyekiti.
Samia stood out for being Zanzibari and for her agenda, making history for the party and for the strong record, especially during Bunge la Katiba. After Magufuli's death in 2021, Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan became the country's first female president.
Aliyesimama hapa ni Rais wa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania ambaye maumbile yake ni mwanamke.
With the ticket set and after these groundbreaking choices, the accidental candidate was ready to face the most contested election in the nation's history. The election became a clash between two sides. Lowassa, feeling betrayed, left the ruling party and joined the opposition coalition UKAWA. For the first time, CCM faced its former prime minister. Tensions were high in Tanzania. UKAWA, backed by Lowassa's resources and a desire for change, stood on one side. On the other hand, CCM was divided and was relying on a candidate who had not yet formed a campaign team. The contest was clear: the wealth of the elite versus the work of the scientists. At this point, John Pombe Magufuli stepped forward to make his first move. As CCM entered the election in 2015, most people distrusted and disliked the party. All hopes were on John Pombe Magufuli to turn things around. It was remarkable that someone who grew up as a head boy in a modest family was now seen as the party's savior. Magufuli's campaign stood out. He not only spoke, but also performed, doing push-ups on stage. This is famously known to show his strength. And he connected with the wanyonge, the underprivileged or the poor, by speaking their language. His slogan was simple and powerful: Hapa Kazi Tu. Only work matters.
Deni langu kwenu ni kufanya kazi tu. Mchana nitafanya kazi, usiku nitafanya kazi, nikiwa nimekaa nitafanya kazi, nikichuchumaa nitafanya kazi, nikilala kifudifudi nitafanya kazi, nikiwa chali nitafanya kazi. Lengo langu ni kumfanya Tanzania iwe Tanzania ya maendeleo ya kweli.
There is a story behind the billboards and the digital campaign and the Magufuli's branding entirely. How did the Hapa Kazi Tu brand came to life? The Magufuli brand came to life. And who created this image for CCM? You may remember January Makamba. He was the youngest of top 5 finalists, and the elders told him to wait his turn. Instead sidelining him, the party made a smart and strategic decision. They went back to Makamba and asked him to do a party's job. This move was meant to show unity in a divided party. Having just run a highly sophisticated primary campaign, most famous for his New Tanzania vision launch at Mlimani City Hall, he was appointed to the National Campaign Committee. Their primary job was to rebrand the party and help it win the election. So here's the catch. They shifted from branding CCM to branding Magufuli, a personality. You do remember I told you that CCM was heading to the election untrusted. This move would be remembered for the popular Magufuli logo designed by Mkuki. This logo became more popular than CCM's logo, and that was a cheat code.
The logo Magufuli symbolizes his character by translating his inner traits, values, temperament, ambition into a visual language. It doesn't just show the face, it shows the essence.
Campaigns like Ngoja Magufuli Aje were everywhere on social media just to cement his personality and his personal brand. They branded Magufuli as the nation's messiah, a healthy, non-nonsense, focused and hardworking man. And then a candidate needs more than just a manifesto. They need a movement, and every movement needs a rallying cry. The CCM National Campaign Committee worked on Magufuli's image. Inspired by his road-building record and work ethic, they first came up with the slogan, Hapa Kazi Tu. Here, it's only work. And this was passed with the CCM elders, with everyone was down for it. But then the slogan worked, but it did not connect with the young people. Everything changed a few days before the launch when Diamond Platnumz, one of the biggest stars in East Africa, visited the campaign offices. At that time, Diamond's song, My Number One, was the nation's top anthem. It was trending everywhere. He suggested a big collaboration, a campaign remix to promote Magufuli and CCM. The committee liked the idea, but there was one disagreement. The team asked Diamond to use Hapa Kazi Tu in the lyrics, but he disagreed. As an expert in rhythm, Diamond said, the flow isn't appealing. It's clunky. Remove the knee. Keep it Hapa Kazi Tu. Only 3 words. And that is how the phrase Hapa Kazi Tu was officially created. One of the key areas introduced and used for the first time is digital campaigning. The famous IT Masaki for CCM and the IT group of UKAWA, which was situated in Kinondoni and later invaded, and the other one which was never invaded, the one in Mbezi. It was the first time bulk SMS, WhatsApp groups, Facebook groups were introduced, and local social platform like Jamii Forums was heavily used for the campaigning. The Lowassa's camp experienced communication paralysis as their leaders' phones rang non-stop, leaving them unreachable most of the time. In a nutshell, the 2015 Tanzanian General Election was a high-stakes political earthquake, but shattered the status quo and pushed the nation to its most competitive threshold in history. It was defined by the shocking defection of the inevitable ruling party titan Edward Lowassa to the opposition coalition UKAWA after he was purged by the CCM elders, and the subsequent rise of John Pombe Magufuli, a disciplined outsider known as Bulldozer. The campaign was a coalition between Lowassa's massive financial influence and populist appeal versus Magufuli's clean Hapa Kazi Tu reformist image. While Magufuli ultimately secured the presidency with 58.5% of the vote, the narrowest margin for a CCM winner, the election fundamentally shifted the landscape as the opposition gained unprecedented ground in parliament and control over all 5 major cities. But as the celebrations began, a shadow loomed. The oppositions cried foul. Zanzibar's election was nullified, and the man who had been chosen as safe compromise within the party, CCM, was about to show the world that he was nobody's puppet. From the head boy to living in a modest life, to the teacher to becoming a scientist, and then to become a politician for his home constituency in Chato, and then to become deputy minister, and then being in the government senior position for 20 years, he is now ready to become the president of the United Republic of Tanzania. The Bulldozer is ready to unleash the Magufulification. See you in the episode 3.
Mheshimiwa Naibu Spika, waheshimiwa viongozi wote tuliokaribishwa kuingia kwenye ukumbi huu na kushuhudia yaliyojitokeza, na mmeona tuna kazi kubwa kwa sababu bado tuna watoto wengi muendelee kuwavumilia na kuwafundisha, na Watanzania wameona.